welcome everybody to the first ABN Netcapital and ValueSetters online event. We're excited to have everybody here. Ben, thanks for inviting us to join and present to your organization.
Well, this is delightfully different. Hello, everyone. I'm Ben Doherty, in case you forgot who I was. We're thrilled to be back with our new friends and hope to be longtime friends, John and Jason, and new friends Robert and Corrine. Welcome, ABN members. This is not quite like sitting around a table, breaking bread and having a glass of wine and listening to engaging presentations. I think it's going to be, in a lot of ways, better, but we'll soon be looking forward to gathering again. I want to thank Ed Sigmund, particularly for ValueSetters and Netcapital possible. And we're looking forward to a great presentation today. You have some fantastic presentation speakers, and so I'll sit back and enjoy the show.
Thanks, Ben. And you cut out there a little bit, but I'm pretty sure we got it all. And we appreciate the thanks, and we appreciate you again and everyone else who helped put this together. So just so all the attendees know, the way this is going to go is I'm going to take a few minutes. We're going to interview Corrine Chrysler from ValueSetters and Jason Frischman from Netcapital. And then we have three different investor presentations from three companies that are currently live on Netcapital's site. We have Yahyn, Deuce Drone, and Zelgor. I encourage all the attendees, if you have questions for, in particular for the companies themselves, we'll have a Q&A session. There is a Q&A function at the bottom of your Zoom screen. It says Q&A. You can write in your questions there and we'll answer them as best we can live. So with all that being said, Corrine and Jason, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Rob. We're so excited to be here virtually.
I agree. Not quite the same as when we were down in Dallas with Ben and the rest of the chapter down there at Maggiano's, but this will be good as well. And, you know, in the world of post-pandemic, I think that this is a good experience for all of us.
Yeah, we're all adjusting to online events. So to kick it off, Corrine, can you just give us a brief overview of ValueSetters, kind of who you are, what you do?
Absolutely, Rob. Thank you for asking. ValueSetters is a publicly traded boutique advisory firm. And what we do is we help entrepreneurs raise capital through online private markets like Netcapital. We're a group of professional investors, and we use that expertise to help companies craft their messaging to investors so it really resonates with a broad audience of people. And once we've crafted that message, we help people market their offerings to institutional investors and high net worth investors by accessing our deep network. And we also market them online using Google Ads and Facebook. We have a whole team, an army of certified digital marketing experts who help do that.
Thanks, Corrine. And then Jason, same question to you. Can you explain to us a little bit about what Netcapital is and how it operates?
Of course. So Netcapital is an online funding portal. And so what we do is we help companies digitize their securities and sell them over the internet. And so when a company is working with Netcapital, as the three companies are who you'll hear from later today, that means that you as an investor can go to netcapital.com, navigate to their offering page. You can see a whole host of information that you'd want to see, you know, their pitch deck, their financial statements, their cap table, all the marketing information that you'd like to read about an investment opportunity. And if you wanted to invest in the company, you could click a few buttons and in less than 60 seconds, you could own those shares. What's interesting about Netcapital is not only do we allow you as an investor to buy shares in companies, we also allow investors to resell those securities in an integrated secondary transfer platform. So you can not only buy shares, you can also sell shares. We help companies get their stuff together. So we do have a diligence process. So not just any company can qualify to list on Netcapital. And of course, we have a partnership with ValueSetters, which helps us significantly because, as Corrine said, they really help issuers tighten their messaging, tighten their communication, and not only with their communication, but also help those companies become better companies.
Thanks, Jason. And just to follow up on that, can you explain a little bit about what the diligence process is at Netcapital and also what investors can expect to see on an offering page on the Netcapital site?
Yeah, of course. So we're a FINRA member. We're registered with the SEC. So we're what's called a funding portal, which some of you may not be familiar with. It's pretty similar to a broker dealer. And so we have a regulated process that we have to follow before any company's offering goes live on the funding portal. We have a dedicated compliance team that reviews all of the relevant information about a company's offering and offering page. It's over 144 items in a checklist that our compliance team has to go through. Now, we like to say that our diligence process is as objective as possible. We ourselves don't like to put ourselves in the position where we're endorsing deals. We're not claiming that these are, the best deals around in the country, but they are solid deals. We have done extensive diligence. We've reviewed all of these deals and the information. We feel comfortable listing them on our site, which is a FINRA registered funding portal. The type of information that you should expect to see on the offering page is the sort of information that you'd expect to see in like a PPM, a private placement memorandum. And what's nice is that just like there's a Q&A section here in the Zoom call, there's also a Q&A section on the offering page. So if there's ever additional information that you feel like is missing from the page or any questions that you might have, you can go right into Netcapital, you can ask your question, and the management team can respond to you right there in a somewhat public format. And you can see not only your own questions answers, but also the questions of other prospective investors being answered as well.
Thanks, Jason. And then Kareen, can you talk about how ValueSetters chooses its clients?
Sure.
Because I know it's a slightly different process.
Yeah, absolutely. So Rob, we try to be really selective about who we choose to work with as clients because we just want to be really careful about who we're willing to introduce to our network of investors. So one of the things we look for the most, absolutely, is how big is the market opportunity for the company? Do they have a cool and exciting new technology or product that's going to address a really large and growing market? That's the first thing. Then we look at the management team. Is this a team of people who we really like, who are really passionate about what they do? Do they have relevant work experience, educational experience, or life experiences that are going to help them really grow their company and make it strong? So those are the key things. Other things that we look for are, is the company backed by some high profile investors? For instance, Zelgor Games, you'll hear, falls into that category. And something nice that we look for, although not absolutely essential, is has the management team had previous successful exits? That's always a big plus. So I think that gives you the general overview.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks.
You're welcome.
And Jason, I think this is a good question for you. It's a question from our attendees, but I think it's relevant to what we're discussing now is, if we participate in one of the offerings, do we pay an added fee? And then I think also just in addition to that, can you talk about like how do you make an investment on Netcapital?
Yeah, that is a great question. And the answer is it is entirely free for an investor to invest. Netcapital gets paid by the companies. So the companies pay the portal to list their offering, somewhat similar to, a company listing on NASDAQ or the OTC, right? We make money from the companies and the investors can participate entirely for free. So if you invest $50,000, you get $50,000 worth of those shares. The process by which you do that is very simple. We strive to make it as easy to buy shares on Netcapital as is to buy a product on Amazon. So you go to netcapital.com, you navigate on the top, there's a button that says invest at the top navigation menu. That would bring you a list of all of the offerings. There's a search bar. So if you wanted to search for Yahyn or Deuce Drone or Zelgor, which are the three offerings that you'll hear from today, I'm assuming that at the end of this meeting, we'll send around a link to each of the three offering pages that will make this even more clear. We'll provide step-by-step instructions on how to go through the process. You click the invest button. Of course, we do need to collect some information from you. We need your bank account information, or you can actually use a credit card to purchase shares through Netcapital. So we need your payment information. We need your address. We need all of the personally identifiable information that we need to process our know your customer and anti-money laundering pieces of the process. And assuming you enter all that information correctly, you can own your shares within 60 seconds from clicking that invest button. And then you digitally sign the various investor subscription agreements, which are standardized across the site. So there's no hidden terms and no hidden preferences in one stock versus another. All of it's standardized. All of the shares that you'd be purchasing would be the same.
Thanks, Jason. and we're coming up just to the end of our time with you two. But I'd love to just get one final thought from each of you about how what you see has been happening in the private markets over the last couple of months, and how you see the kind of transition from private markets into digitization.
I'm happy to jump in there. I think that's 2 questions. So
it is 2 questions, sorry.
One of the things that we've seen a lot of post-COVID is we're seeing a lot of potential clients come to us who are in health-related industries, either supplements that might keep you healthy, pharmaceuticals, hygiene-related companies, maybe mass companies, and also health and fitness. So we've definitely seen a trend in the type of companies that are looking to work with us. And then in terms of digitization, I think it's very, very cool about Netcapital's secondary transfer platform. That's a really key issue that attracts clients to the platform, and it's a big selling point.
Thanks, Green.
Yep.
Yeah, and I would just add to that I founded Netcapital in 2015, and the idea that we had back then was that the world is becoming digital, and everybody wants to make every transaction from the comfort of their couch, from their iPhone or their iPad or their computer. And the pandemic has only served to rapidly increase the speed at which digitization is sweeping across all industry. And so with that, I think what Netcapital provides is becoming all that more important, which is in a world where fundraising has almost exclusively lived and survived in face-to-face contact. We need to adapt and figure out a way to get innovative companies the capital that they need to grow without putting ourselves at risk of in-person conferences or in-person meetings. And this is a great way to do that. Through Netcapital, you really lower the activation energy that it takes to make an investment, because you're removing a lot of the like time-consuming and drudgery of the paperwork and sending over the documents and printing and signing and scanning, and you're replacing all of that with a few clicks on your computer or your iPhone. It just makes the process more seamless and easier. And I think in a time like this, that's what we need. It's also somewhat entertaining, being able to scroll through, dozens of innovative company offerings on one platform where you can see what people are doing all around the country, not so isolated to your own geographical area, has been really exciting for our users. We've seen a massive uptick in user growth, in investor growth, and in issuer applications over the last 3 months. In fact, since May, Netcapital has continuously hit monthly achievements in user growth and investor growth. And we think that part of that is a result of the pandemic.
Thanks, Jason. So now it's time to transition over to our company presentations. So we've got 3 companies, as we mentioned. We have Yahyn, Deuce Drone, and Zelgor. I've included in the chat the links to all 3 companies' offering pages. So as you guys listen to the presentation, you're welcome to peruse the offering pages as well. That's where you can make investments, learn more about the companies, read the offering statements, things like that. And so first up, we have Pierre Rogers from Yahyn. Pierre, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Rob, so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So yeah, whenever you're ready, feel free to take it away.
Fantastic. Let me just share my screen real quick.
Yep, we can see it. And we got a full screen here.
Fantastic. So about a year ago, my wife and I had this very, very rare chance to actually go out to dinner without the kids. For us, that's a big deal, right? So we got all dressed up, got all fancy, a very rare occurrence in our lives right now with 2 little ones. Went out to this fantastic restaurant. The waiter brings me this encyclopedia, this volume that is the wine list. And I'm flipping through it, and I think I kind of know wines, and I don't recognize 60, 70, 80% of what's on this list. My wife excuses herself to the powder room, and I whip out my phone real quick, and I text 2 friends of mine. They happen to be sommeliers at the French Laundry, and they give me excellent recommendations. Come back to the table, the wine is presented, everything is amazing, and my wife makes the comment, well, it must be nice to have a sommelier in your pocket. And actually, that's where the idea of Yahyn came about. So Hi, my name is Pierre Rogers. I'm the founder of Yahyn, and we seek to completely disrupt the three-tier system around how wine is distributed and how you can become an instant sommelier using our software. So what have we done here? We have simply put, made it the easiest place to find wine anywhere in the world. So if you're familiar how the three-tier system works, or you just think about how you buy wine right now, whether you go to Whole Foods or a local liquor store, the overlap, the amount of wine that you see at Costco, Whole Foods, etc., those major distributors, the overlap between those stores is really, really high. And that's because that's the three-tier system, right? So it's made by a producer, goes to a distributor, to a wholesaler, out to a retailer, and then to you. And so you've got things like markup that happen there, but more importantly, you have access. You can't get, if you're a small and mid-sized producer of this amazing bottle of wine, you can't get into that system. The margin is too thin, the volume requirements are too high, you just can't get there. And then as a user, how the heck would you even find any of those people? So our study has shown that 78% of wine is chosen by its users, chosen by just two qualifiers. One, brand awareness, and two, is actually the aesthetic of the label. If you think about that, it's kind of comical, right? Because neither one of those have to do with what it actually tastes like. And here at Yahyn, we seek to change that completely using our partnership with an AI company to build a profile to your specific palate relative to the wines that are out there. So we'll get into that more in a second. So wine is a really unique industry because it's highly regulated. You already know it's really hard to pick out a bottle of wine you like, and we can solve that problem of finding the most optimized bottle using our Tastery AI partnership. However, small growers can't get the wine to you due to permits, taxes, regulatory hurdles. Due to how the current three-tier system works, you will most likely never be exposed to these amazing wines. At Yahyn, we built a powerful selling platform that does all of the back-end compliance work that you don't really want to hear about and the winemaker doesn't want to deal with. We then pair our recommendation tool with a compliance tool, and we open up an entire world with one click. Not only is that important to the customer, but it's really important to the producers. That gives us the perfect storm of the best selection with the best bespoke recommendations, that's critical, that has the possibility of Yahyn becoming the largest seller of wine on the internet. So real quick, just want to give you a couple of little facts around the wine market. Online wine market, because of COVID, is up over 300%, actually up over 330% since COVID came on. But where was it compared to where is it now? It's a $100 billion annual industry just here in the United States alone. However, only 5% of that currently is done online. So very, very small. So big market, small internet penetration, but that number is growing at a rapid, rapid rate. COVID only added jet fuel to that, and we are actually in the right place at the right time. We've obviously been working on this way before COVID, so I'll take the win. Currently, there's nobody else out there doing what we are doing. There's wine.com and Wine Library and Vivino, and those are more traditional e-com retailers. This is a completely different way of disrupting the three-tier system and getting you, the consumer, the drinker, exposed to these amazing wines that we know with a high degree of certainty using our AI model that you're going to enjoy them. Real quick, just so that we're tight on time, this is how the seamless experience works. We do an integration into the winemaker, right into their point of sales and inventory system. We list that on Yahyn. We drive your reviews, or I should say your bespoke tasting profile, and marry that or match that with other wines in the space that you may or may not have heard of. The winery delivers the wine directly to you, and you have a great experience. We capture revenue on all successful transactions. We're growing pretty fast. So we're growing at nearly 40% month over month. That's in terms of new users. Part of that is fueled by COVID. Part of that is from our PR and our marketing efforts. And the last thing I really wanted to touch upon and be sensitive to time was right here, was our team. So Who are we? So I'm a former VC turned entrepreneur, a little bit unique in that regard. Have had the experience of both passing and investing in dozens and dozens of companies over a handful of years. So I've really been able to see what works and what doesn't work. It's really given me a great advantage. Josh Levitt, the CFO, he's actually also from the VC side. He grew the fund from about 4 million in AUM to 350 million in AUM in just 3 years. So rapid growth there. Robert is our CTO. Robert's been first in on a number of huge names and had many successful exits, some public, some acquisition. So just a huge benefit to us there. Jack Embry's on the marketing side, really well known in the luxury space. But I'm really proud of our board as well and some of the people that have invested in us. So famous investor Neil Patel from the venture space has given us kind of 2 thumbs up and given us a strong recommendation on investing in Yahyn through the Netcapital platform. So we're really proud of that accolade. Jonathan Cooper, well-known investor and entrepreneur. Long story short, started a company and exited to Canopy. So that's been he's been very meaningful investor with us as well as board member. Todd was the architect behind the Grey Goose and Bacardi acquisition, which at the time was the largest in the spirits world, formerly of PepsiCo, super valuable there. Pam Hamlin is just a freaking rock star in the marketing space. Remember that women drink wine almost 2 to 1 more than men. So having a strong female marketing voice is critical to our success. And we know that Pam, given her amazing track record, is just that. And then lastly, Chris, Ludacris Bridges. Yes, that Ludacris, film star, rap star, etc. So he joined our board, and he brings, obviously the celebrity is great, but more specifically, he has a cognac brand, restaurant brand, etc. So just dyed-in-the-wool entrepreneur, and it's been fantastic for sort of keeping us cool and really helping with our branding. So I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here.
Thanks, Pierre. And we appreciate you keeping on time here. We've got a couple of minutes for questions. So if anyone has questions, please put them in the Q&A chat. We've got a couple coming in already. So right off the bat, Pierre, can you talk to us about your pricing? Is it still competitive compared to big box stores, et cetera?
Yeah, so remember, we don't set the pricing, right? So the vineyards get to set their pricing of their bottles of wine. We charge a success fee. So effectively what that looks like is we charge 14% gross, that's 12% to the seller, just 2% to the buyer. And that's how we make our money. So we can't set those prices. However, when you think about how a winery sells its product, they sell it either at the winery, that's where they make the most margin, right? No middleman. They sell it to a restaurant if they can get in, bigger middleman chunk, right? So they're giving up a chunk of revenue, but higher volume. And then lastly, the 3-tier system, which as we discussed, really difficult to get into. So for us, for them being on Yahyn, especially now that tasting rooms are closed, this is a fantastic way for them to be able to sell more wine. And because they can be more competitive, our prices are cheap. Our general price per bottle is more attractive than it will be at a big box store like a Bevmo or a Total Wine or any of those.
Great, thanks. And then we got a couple more questions here. So do you pay for a fee for membership? Do people pay a fee for membership?
No, we do not have a membership program. We do not have a subscription program. That's very much on purpose. So Wink is kind of the 800-pound gorilla in the membership subscription model. And the churn rate within all subscriptions, not just Wink, have been on the rise, right? As customers have gotten kind of subscription fatigue. And when you look at how a subscription model in wine works, let's say I charge Rob $100 a month and I send him 5 bottles of wine. The only way I can make more money is to get lower and lower priced goods and continue to charge Rob $100, right? So it means that me and the customer are kind of at odds. I want to actually deliver lower and lower quality goods to him while not losing him. We don't think that's a really great model. And actually Wink doesn't sell any wine that's, I'll call it real wine. They use all custom crush pad wine. So they can offer really, really low prices, which is fantastic for that subset. But for us, we want to offer really the artisans, the craftsmen, the men and women with boots, dirt on their boots, to really be able to identify them and give them access to the largest DTC market in the world, which is the United States.
Great. So we've got a couple of questions. Do you have what are your current revenues And what's the current valuation of the company?
Good question. So I'll start with the last one. So $5 million valuation. We're doing $1 million raise on Netcapital, of which about 50% is actually already raised. So shout out to Netcapital. You guys have been awesome. Current revenue is, we went live less than 60 days ago. And in that time, our first 30 days in, we did more than 50 grand in sales. And we are on track to actually double that this month. That's 50 grand gross, of which we make our 14% on, just to be clear.
Great. And then a couple more here. Looks like cases are sold. Most people not want to try a whole case? Do you sell by the case or sell by the individual bottle?
So we can, all of the above is the short answer. So you can buy an individual bottle and you can buy a case or anywhere in between. So we've seen some orders that are quite large, $10,000 orders where they've ordered 15, 20, 30 different bottles of wine. And we've seen the individual come in and try one bottle. It really comes down to where you are located, you being the buyer, and where the wine is relative to the cost of shipping. So there's an unfair advantage to every one of us that lives on the West Coast because most of the wine in the United States is Oregon, Northern California, and Central Coast. So if you happen to live on the west side of the country, your cost per bottle shipping is lower than it is, let's say, if you're in New York City. We do work with some retailers and distributors to lower the overall cost of carry, so shipping costs, and give us a broader net. So I can talk about that more in the future. BevMax, not BevMo, BevMax has recently signed on to the platform. They've given us 7,000 SKUs, huge hubs in New York State and Connecticut. Game changer for us from a shipping perspective. Long-winded answer, you can order whatever you want. I will say with one small caveat, Magnum bottles, larger format bottles, are still very difficult as an industry to ship because the cost is still high. A case of wine or a single bottle or a 3-pack, really, really easy. But anything that's oversized can get really expensive.
Awesome. Thanks, Pierre. And we have 2 more quick questions. So one is, can you talk about kind of the pricing for the investment and how you got to the valuation of 5 million? So both the valuation and the price per share.
Yeah, certainly. Good question. So, when you're an early stage company, it's part art, part science, right? Because, in the beginning, you have no revenue. So our first round, our sort of first friends and family round was actually raised by myself. I invested a little north of $250,000 of my own money to get the company up and off the ground. And then John Cooper, the GP over at Evolution Ventures, he came in and invested about $600,000. And what we did is we took all the IP that we had built, the team that we were able to build, the value that the board brings, that the team brings, size of addressable market, shake it up into a cocktail and go, okay, if we're even remotely successful in this space, here's what our valuation would be. And then we also wanted to take a look at other startups that were roughly in the same position that we were in terms of employees, market size, et cetera, and just make sure that our pricing was sort of in line with theirs. So that's where we came up with our valuation.
Great. And we don't have any time for more questions on Yahyn, but I'll leave you, Pierre, with the last word. Someone asked, can you tell us about the name of the company?
Yeah, I love this. So that is an homage. Yahyn is actually the Greek Hebrew name, ancient Hebrew name, and used in biblical texts as the very first word for wine as we know it. So it is our way of sort of paying homage to the history and the tradition of Yahyn. We know it's a difficult name to say. That's somewhat on purpose, but that's what Yahyn is and what it means.
Thanks, Pierre.
Thanks,
and
Rob.
I know, no problem. So I know Vicky asked a question about where we can find the deck and where you can find more information about the company. So for everyone, this presentation is being recorded. We'll send a follow-up email with the recording. There's also in the chat right now, you can find links to each company's offering page. Those pages include all the information about the company, the valuation, the price per share, how to invest, as well as the offering statement and the pitch deck and other additional information. And if you have additional questions for any of the entrepreneurs, there's just a discussion board there where you can write a question and I'm sure all of you guys will get right on responding. So with that, again, thanks, Pierre. We appreciate your time. And moving on to KJ of Deuce Drone. KJ, thanks for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Of course.
Let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay.
Perfect. We can see it. Take it away.
So, hi, my name is KJ Hardrick. I'm a recent MIT grad who majored in aerospace engineering, and I focused a lot on autonomous systems. And I'm here representing Deuce Drone, a company that will transform the delivery system as we know it. So first, I'm going to get into the problem that Deuce Drone is trying to solve. The current issue for a lot of these retailers is that it's become almost impossible to compete with Amazon and how quickly they deliver packages. According to a Bloomberg study, 77.6 million Americans live in a zip code where Amazon offers same-day Prime delivery. The reason Amazon is able to do this is because they can leverage a large delivery network for a lot of their different products. And because last mile delivery is costly and relies on people, and for most businesses, it's just too expensive and inefficient to develop such a network. This is why they have to turn to other services to facilitate these deliveries. But by doing this, the retailers lose control of the last leg of delivery. They have no control over how drivers dress or conduct themselves or interact with customers, and any mishaps with the order will reflect negatively on the retailers and not on delivery services like Uber Eats or Grubhub. So our solution is that we're providing businesses that wouldn't have the resources to create a whole drone program, even if they wanted to, the ability to do so and offer same day, same hour delivery. We're providing an efficient and fully integrated automated delivery service that we will get more into detail. I'll get into more detail a little later throughout this presentation. But in essence, we're enabling drone delivery that will allow just about any retailer to offer delivery times in minutes and not days. And these retailers that are utilizing our service are already conveniently located fulfillment centers. So if you think about it, Amazon has to have different hubs, maybe 100 miles apart to make sure that they have that reach. But each of these retailers, the more that we get on board, the more that we're able to utilize their already existing inventory, already existing infrastructure, and we'll be able to deliver from those places directly to these people's homes. And as a result, we can deliver these packages much more quickly. And the more retailers we get on board, the more drone hubs we will be able to put in place, which will ultimately allow us to further expand our network and our reach. And situations like the one we're in right now just show that we needed this contactless delivery service already in place. And a service like this, the uses are countless. And as we see from the different services that are out right now, customers are already more than willing to pay these delivery and service fees and tip, as we can see from these different delivery services that we're all used to people getting your food from. And with the current system, these delivery systems add 40 to 60% to every order. This is in the form of tips, service fees, delivery fees, and extra fees that the retailer has to pay to utilize the service. For larger retailers that have the name recognition and branding, they can get away with simply passing those extra fees over to the customers, where you'll see the list price on the app is probably 10 to 20% more expensive than what you'd see in store. But for smaller retailers, they just won't be able to compete with these larger retailers if they passed on these costs. So they have to often absorb these costs just to have a chance. And one thing to note is you don't ever have to tip a drone. So we see that there's a huge market opportunity because of all of the different items that we're able to deliver. And because of the COVID-19 situation, this just seems even more relevant than before. So we've considered the competitive landscape, as there are several people in the drone space who recognize this as the future. Amazon is clearly on this list, to no surprise, and shows that despite their large ground-based delivery network, drone and unmanned aerial systems facilitating delivery is the next wave. You might ask, how do we plan to compete with competitors such as Amazon, who have those deep pockets for tech development and research? Well, Amazon has been working on Prime Air since 2016, and we think the holdup is because of the regulation hurdles. And internally, I'll get into more of this later, we are confident that we'll be able to get over these different regulation hurdles because we have the experience on board on our team that can candidly have these conversations with the FAA to push forward. And we've already began pushing forward the different regulation hurdles that we had seen previously, and we're already making those steps right now. And so as I mentioned, since we want to put out a service that any customer wants to sign up for now, we have really put together an incredible cast of individuals where we cover all the bases from logistics, aerospace, and construction to technology and engineering. As a team, we have the connections to create relationships with the biggest brands you know and love. We speak the language of the FAA and can work with them to efficiently handle any regulation issues for the future. And we have decades of experience within the successful startup space. For the drone tech itself, we're constantly exposed to the latest and greatest drone and robotics tech, and are confident we'll continue to develop a safe, reliable, and efficient system. And recently, we have already begun to expand the team to fill project management, mechanical engineering, and app development roles. And not pictured here, we also have sensor experts and robotics engineers that have just signed up. So companies will be able to easily sign up, they're able to easily sign up for our service. We're continually coordinating and planning the different work we need to do in order to turn their current warehouses or store areas into a drone port and equip them for drone delivery. We're handling both the front and back end in terms of software, and we're seamlessly integrating the ordering process into the current systems. We're the ones operating the systems from control centers, and we call this a drone command. And since we don't have to operate vehicles and pay drivers, we're able to provide our delivery services with significantly less service and delivery fees on the consumer side. And so a rundown of what the whole process would look like: the customer would place an order on our app. The package is then prepared in the retail space area in their existing warehouse area. It will be placed in a designated area, and using our drone waiter system, the package will be brought to the roof and loaded into the correct terminal at our drone port. It would then use the GPS to go to the correct location, and we will know exactly where to land because each customer that we will get on board will receive a landing mat, and so we can precisely land at whatever location the consumer wants, whether it's in the front yard, backyard, or in any piece of land that they have that they want the drone to land in. And then it will be able to return to any drone port that we specify. And as I mentioned just now, the drone waiter system will be a system of conveyor belts and elevator systems to get the package from our designated area and automatically get it to the correct terminal on the roof. And so the last time someone touches a package will be the worker putting it on the designated area, and then the next person to touch that package will be the consumer that receives it on the other end. And a big plus for why we don't have to develop a drone that can go 100 miles, that we were able to use existing technology and actually reach all these people, is because as we get these different retailers on board, we already expand our drone port network. These are the retailers that we already have on board, signed up and using our system. And from here, we're already able to reach hundreds of thousands of people. And because the drone doesn't have to necessarily come back to the same drone port that it took off from, we're able to increase their range capabilities because we can just go back and recharge at a different port that may be closer to this person's home. The drone that we're using right now is the Matrice 600 Pro. And the good pluses for this one is that it can go 40 miles per hour, which comes out to around 2/3 mile a minute. So you can imagine a 4-mile flight will only take 6 minutes because the drone is flying as the crow flies. The battery lasts up to 38 minutes, and this gives us a range of about 8 to 16 miles. And we're always going to get the benefit of the doubt and make sure that the drone never goes below 30%. And because the drone's capabilities are already so vast, we're already thinking about many ways where we can apply this drone technology, from pharmaceutical movement to B2B movement to the general B2C movement. And already today, I actually just came from a successful flight demo that we showed out here in Mobile, Alabama. We showed a multi-node delivery mission and was able to deliver from both Rouse's and Buffalo Wild Wings with some controlled environment. And we had successful precision landing, unlatching, and yeah, that's what I just came from now. As I've said before, we also pushed forward the FAA regulation requirements, and we have 3 neighboring cities already on board for pushing this forward. So yeah, if you have any more questions, you can definitely let me know.
Thanks, KJ. And a reminder to everyone, if you have questions, please put them in the chat. We've got a couple of questions already, KJ. So can you talk to us about what are the size and weight limitations on packages?
So right now, the weight that we're having like in the current drone that we're using, can carry up to 12 pounds. But we're already talking with different drone manufacturers because we're not a drone manufacturing company. We already make the flight scripts and all the precision landing stuff. So we're able to apply that to different drone tech. And so right now we're already fielding different drone manufacturers that can offer payloads of 50 pounds, 30 pounds, and just different variations of drone that we'll be able to utilize more efficiently. And in terms of size, I didn't even get pictured our new landing gear, but we're able to carry a pretty decently sized package. It's hard to show virtually right now, but you'll be surprised at how much this drone can carry already, and the capabilities will only increase as the technology improves.
Great. So another question is, drones are required to be piloted by licensed operators. How can you say that they're less expensive than normal delivery drivers?
So right now, yes, we need to have one pilot for every 5 drones. But as I mentioned before, we're pushing for different FAA certifications, and we already have the certification pushed forward of the Part 135 that gives its full airline type licensing and registration. This will enable us to have our drone command centers, and yes, that person will be licensed, but we envision them being able to monitor 50, 100, even 200 drones from one command station, as long as we can prove our safety capabilities.
Fantastic. And then the next question was, can you talk a little bit more about the control center?
So these control centers, we're still refining this software. And it enables us to keep track of all the different drones. We can work directly with the FAA and also give them that information. So that has helped also in our regulation process. And we're able to see where all these different drones are, help with different path planning with code, and also monitor different things. So if a drone's landing, that view will come directly up to the person in control of the drone command center, and they'll be able to make sure everything's going well. If anything were to go wrong, that will alert the person in charge as well, and we'll be able to control the drones, manually take over if we ever need to. And so the drone command center isn't necessarily needed for the tech to work because the tech is all automated, but we're putting that in place to be able to keep the system as safe as possible.
Thanks, KJ. We have a bunch of questions coming in, so we'll try and roll through them as quickly as we can. So how do you account for weather?
So right now, something that current ADS-B transponders that have to be on every aircraft, those get weather data. So we can actually see every 6 minutes weather data being updated. If we think we can make the trip while avoiding a big storm, we will maneuver around that. But if not, there are already drone manufacturers out right now that are releasing weatherproof drones. And so we don't envision this major setback. Of course, we're not going to fly it in like a hurricane or a blizzard, but for most conditions, we're still confident that we'll be able to transport these packages.
I suspect in a hurricane or a blizzard, even a delivery driver might have trouble.
Yeah.
I think you might have addressed this earlier, but I want to make sure we hit all the questions. How do you get around the FAA one pilot, one drone and up to 75 pounds max rule?
So we're not up to 75 right now. As I mentioned, we have only 12 pounds underneath. The drone empty weighs about 25 pounds, so we only get to around 37. So under Part 107 right now, we're able to already do our test flights and monitor them as they come down. Safety is a big aspect of what we're doing. So with these flights, we're definitely monitoring how they come down and just really analyzing what happens there. We anticipate probably early next year into mid next year, we'll get the full Part 135 regulations settled away. And we already have someone internal for there as well, I forgot to mention.
Great. We have a couple of people asking about how does the model work in heavily congested areas like Manhattan, et cetera? Would it work?
So honestly, we have been tailoring the technology to more suburban environments. That's why it's been great to test here in Mobile, Alabama. Because everything is so dense in other areas, it might not be as useful of a service, but here when everything's a little more sprawled out, we're able to reach a lot more people. But this is only talking like Manhattan, maybe Chicago, but even cities like LA or Atlanta, we envision to really be able to utilize all these spaces. Skyscrapers do complicate things, but that's definitely a space that we do want to go to eventually. But right now we're focusing on more suburban to or sprawled urban environments.
Great. Another question was, big box retailers do not have roof access. How do you automate the rooftop? They believe this will cost a lot of money.
So this is where someone on the board, Philip Burton, who's on our founding team as well, has all these retail connections. And so we're already having these conversations with Rouse's and Buffalo Wild Wings, who are already on board. And we don't see this as an issue. We're also looking at different solution methods. Maybe we're cantilevering like a platform right off of the roof. And we're just going to try to make it as easy as possible. And so which different centers will retrofit something that works for that landlord. And we understand that there'll be differences in different building codes and stuff like that.
Perfect. And we've got a ton of questions, but unfortunately we're running out of time. KJ, I know you can type the answer to some of these questions in the Q&A. I'll also make sure we have them and we can do our best to make sure everyone gets their questions answered after the event is over. So with that, KJ, really appreciate your time and best of luck.
Thank you.
And up for our final presentation, we have John Fanning Jr. of Zelgor Games. John, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Rob. Really happy to be here. And yeah, really excited to share with all of you. 1 second here.
We had it.
I'll just slide this. Here we go. All right, awesome. Hi, I'm John, and I am the founder and CEO of Zelgor
Hey,
Games.
John, sorry, just a heads up. I only see a small sliver of your presentation on our screen.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah.
What about now?
That looks better.
Awesome. All right, take two. Hi, I'm John, and I am the founder and CEO of Zelgor Games. Zelgor is building an army of aliens to disrupt the $150 billion global games industry. In 2018, video games eclipsed TV and streaming to become the most profitable sector of major entertainment. As a company, we're starting with mobile games in part because it's the largest and fastest growing sector of the video games industry. Another reason we're starting in mobile is due to the many high-profile success stories. Games like Candy Crush Saga, Clash of Clans, and Pokemon Go have each generated over $1 billion in revenue in their lifetime. At its peak, Pokemon Go brought in as much as 2.5 million in a single day. These games each reached multi-billion-dollar valuations within 2 years of launching just a single game. Our team consists of industry veterans, each with over a decade of experience in their respective fields. They've collectively worked on massively successful games like The Sims, BioShock, Dungeons & Dragons Online, and more. Our CMO started and sold 2 marketing agencies before he turned 30 and has worked with several Fortune 500 companies throughout his career. We're backed by famous venture capitalist Tim Draper, Atari founder Nolan Bushnell, and the creator of Guitar Hero Kai Wong. We're also backed by the founders of Napster and Michael Dornbrook, who oversaw the launch of both Guitar Hero and Rock Band while he was the chief operating officer at Harmonix. These world-class investors all understood that we are a team built to take advantage of the opportunity in mobile games. And that opportunity is that there are still games that came out over 20 years ago on platforms like the Game Boy that are still far superior to most of the games that are available on your phone today. When the iPhone first came out in 2008, I was really excited because I grew up playing games on my Game Boy, and I thought, oh man, this is going to be amazing. It's a cell phone plus a Game Boy in one device. The games are going to be incredible. And the reality is that the games that came out were really simple and really disappointing. It was like flicking a paper ball into a trash can or cutting a rope or slicing a fruit. Given that the space is so lucrative, yet with still so much room for improvement in the games even today, we view this as a massive opportunity and one that our team is built to capitalize on. Our first set of games are built around our army of aliens called the Noobs. The Noobs are rambunctious space invaders who are extremely intelligent while simultaneously being shockingly dim-witted. We currently have 2 games in development built around the Noobs IP, Noobs in Space and NoobTubes. Our first game, Noobs in Space, is the world's introduction to our race of humorous aliens. Led by their ridiculous leader, Major Noob, the Noobs are perpetually flying around the universe, exploring cool new planets and dodging obstacles along the way. The game is extremely easy to learn, as all the player has to do is tap the screen to change directions. Players collect new noobs, UFOs, outfits, and more along the way. We also have a second game in development, NoobTubes. NoobTubes is the sequel to Noobs in Space and is the story of the noobs discovering Earth. This game introduces a new piece of noob technology called the NoobTube, which is a fruit launching backpack that the noobs use to battle each other for control of Earth. Our NoobTube battles are incredibly spectator friendly and have significant esports potential. The game is tied to the real world map as players compete for territories like AT&T Stadium, the Eiffel Tower, and even your own backyard. We plan to monetize these games and the noobs in a variety of ways. The most important piece of our business model, though, is that these games are free to play. Free to play makes it as easy as possible for anyone to try it out and share it with their friends. Players can spend money on virtual items within each game like noobs, UFOs, costumes, and even more. We'll also be monetizing brands through non-intrusive in-game ads as well as sponsored content. Sponsored content in particular is an underutilized revenue stream in mobile, and it's one that our CMO is an expert in. We'll also be selling merchandise like shirts, hats, and stuffed noob plushies. As the Noobs IP becomes more popular, we'll expand our games to other game platforms and expand into other forms of media like TV and movies. Right now, we're targeting the beginning of the holiday season for a launch of Noobs in Space. This will allow us to generate revenue immediately prior to the end of 2020 and maximizes the game's revenue potential if it takes off right away. From there, we'll be able to steadily increase our user base over the next year. These numbers show you what our revenue could look like in a variety of scenarios, including how much we could make in a year if we hit over at 1 million downloads. Once you get into the territory of 20 million downloads, that's when you start to see the potential of becoming a billion-dollar game. We are an amazingly talented team backed by a group of world-class investors with an IP that's about to take over the universe. If you'd like to join us before it's too late, you can do so by buying shares in our company for as little as 50 cents through our offering page at netcapital.com/company/Zelgor. Thank you very much.
Thanks, John. Appreciate you taking the time to present to us. So kicking it off, you finished your presentation talking about your price per share on Netcapital. Can you talk to us a little bit about how much you're raising, how you came up with the valuation, things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're currently raising $535,000 on Netcapital at a $4.23 million valuation. That valuation was determined initially by our first investors in the door, and then the additional software costs, the people that we added to the team, resulted in the company's valuation increasing by almost double since the first checks came in. And then actually, since our offering went live, we were able to add even more amazingly talented and experienced people. So the true valuation of the company is probably even higher than what it is on our Netcapital offering, but we've kept it live because it's such a great deal and we really want to make it as easy as possible for a large number of people to invest whatever they feel comfortable with.
Perfect. And an investor question, what is the target age group for the games?
So with all our games, our goal is really to be broadly accessible and family friendly. We're going after a couple of different types of gamers. So we're going after younger gamers, kids in high school and college and even younger who obviously have plenty of free time to play games. We're also going after casual gamers who maybe play games on their commute or once or twice a day. And then we're also going after the more competitive gamers who play games multiple times a day and will play games for weeks, months, if not years.
And can you talk to us a little bit about your progress so far? Kind of what's the status of the game now? How are things going?
Yeah, it's going really well. We have both games in development. You can sign up to be a tester on our website by going to zelgor.com and clicking the sign up button, and you'll get access to both games within minutes. They're both in sort of what I would call the pre-alpha stage as we continue to add the key features that are really going to make the games a lot of fun. And then once we get those in the game, we'll be able to expand our testing community even further and roll out into alpha.
Perfect. And I think we have time for one more question before we get to the end of the hour. Oh, and Are there any issues with children running up bills on their parents' account?
That is a constant question that we get asked. And the reality is that for the overwhelming majority of games, there's basically zero supervision on that. So for the majority of games that your kids could be playing that aren't our games, yes, that is absolutely something that could be happening. And it's something that we want to be mindful of. One of the things that we maximize above all else is the long-term value of the player. We think, the best business practice in games is to build a game that people play for as long as humanly possible. And if we have kids playing our game and they're charging up a bunch of money on their kids' credit cards, and then you guys as parents say, hey, you're not allowed to play this game anymore, that's really bad for us. So it's definitely something that we're going to be very mindful of and paying close attention to with our metrics. Because like we said, if people are going to be spending big money on our game, we want to make sure that they're not doing it without the consent of their parents.
Sure. And another question is, have you thought about education as well as fun? So combining education with fun, yeah.
It's something that I have spent a tremendous amount of my time thinking about. And one of the things that I realized is that kids are actually really smart. And so if kids know that you're trying to teach them something, they quickly tune out and they become less interested. So you have to come at it from the approach of delivering them an experience that's genuinely fun on its own, and then weaving different educational experiences within that. So we talked about Noob tubes being built on top of the real world map. So you're battling over territories, right? And all sorts of different places in the world geographically. It's also an opportunity for us to teach the players a little bit about the geography and what's going on in the actual place in the world. So there's a ton of different little sort of subtle ways like that we can weave in education and help people, become smarter in addition to having fun and enjoying their free time.
Perfect. And the last question we have time for today is, can you talk to us about the testers you have? How many people you have signed up and what they're doing?
Yeah, so we've had a few thousand testers come and go over the years through our testing community. And like I said, anyone can currently sign up on our website and just click the sign up button. We're intentionally keeping the group small right now because, again, we still have core features that we have to build out, but there are still slots available. So if you want to test it out or your kids want to test it up, like I said, just go to our website and click the sign up button, and we should get both versions of both games over to you right away.
Fantastic. Well, thanks, John. Thanks for taking the time to both present and help organize this whole event.
Yeah, absolutely. It was so great to meet Ben and Ed and everyone else in person. And Jason and I had an incredible time meeting all of you. And we felt like, yeah, this is, going to be something that we could pull together and hopefully continue to do moving forward.
Perfect. And I appreciate all the attendees today. As I mentioned, there is in the chat, there are links to each company's offering page on Netcapital where you can find more information, including their offering statement and downloading a pitch deck. That's also where you can make an investment if you're interested. We will send a follow-up email to everybody with this recording and some additional information on the companies. And again, if anyone has additional questions, please feel free to post them on the discussion board of the company's page. Ben, Jason, Karine, any final thoughts before we sign off?
Well, this has been a grand event. Let's do it again. When are we going to do it?
Put on the calendar here, Ben, as soon as we can.
We're ready when you are, Ben.
All right, good answer.
And thank you everybody for your engagement. I thought the questions from everybody were fantastic and were the right questions to the right people. So thank you for your participation. And if you have any challenges with navigating Netcapital, if you want to have further conversations with any of the entrepreneurs or the management team, or if you just feel like you need some help, you can email help@netcapital.com and we'll get back to you as soon as possible with an investor relations expert who can help navigate the site with you or answer any questions you have with respect to getting your information in, setting up your account, or making the investment.
Any final thoughts? You're welcome to throw them in the ring. Otherwise, this is a great event. We appreciate everyone being here.
Okay, and thanks, Rob, for hosting. You did a fantastic job.
Yeah, thanks, Rob.
Stay safe.